What was the most ridiculous thing you got in trouble for at school? In 7th grade, one of my best friends was accused of swearing in class. He was a bit of a troublemaker. So when the teacher heard the bad word, she automatically assumed it was him and told him to leave. The kid behind him then raised his hand and said that he swore and apologized. The teacher accepted his apology and then sent my friend to the principal's office. My friend was very confused at this point and asked her why he had to go when he had done nothing wrong. She then snapped a ruler in half and threw it at him and told him for the destruction of school property. That, I would have to say, is the most ridiculous thing I have ever seen someone get in trouble for. It was PJ day. We were washing our hands for lunch. I accidentally got a little water on another kid's sleeve. Teacher flips out how I ruined the kid's expensive pajamas. The kid didn't even care. Close bracket. My route home took me in front of a dongmonger. Unknown parent B snaps a picture of me and friends walking near the dildo store. Next day we're each suspended for 3 days. Dongmonger is getting top billing in my vocabulary for at least a week now. Needing to use the restroom. Some teachers are straight crazy. By my sophomore year of high school I would just straight up walk out and tell the teacher I was going to the bathroom. It's a public school, not a prison. I belong here and shouldn't have to ask to perform bodily functions. In kindergarten, my brother would come home with wet pants every day. The teacher wouldn't let him use the restroom. My mom followed that teacher home and told her she better let him use the restroom. He never came home with wet pants again. Our school used to have this thing about drinking water. You had to ask permission to drink water. And you couldn't keep your bottle on the table. When I joined university I was stunned to see everyone casually drinking water in the middle of the class like it was no big deal. That's when I understood how stupid the rules were. I saw a dust devil for the first time and said what the? I got in trouble for it. The teacher said you could have said a bad word. Double quote. But I didn't. Get over it. Dude, my mother was exactly like this. I would always say what the and she started snapping at me one day that if I kept saying what the, it would make me start saying what the hell fuck. After she started bitching at me for it, I totally did start saying what the fuck. All because she put it into my subconscious. We had a girls' entrance and a boys' entrance at my secondary modern school, UK, in 1972. I was 12 and proud of the result of my first visit to a proper grown-up hairdresser's. What we now call a mullet but at the time was known as a feather cut and was extremely fashionable for both boys and girls at the time. I was in the crowd going through the door when a teacher ordered, "You boy, what do you think you're doing?" Being very much a girl I didn't take any notice until I felt the hand of impending doom on my shoulder. It was my own form teacher who didn't recognize me without my waist-length ponytail. I finished my exam within 15 minutes but got scolded for not taking it seriously, then told me to actually use my brain until the time runs out, so I went back to my seat and sleep for 80 minutes. The day after the result is out and I got an almost perfect score. Also one time I dated the principal's only daughter. 2 things. Getting bullied and trying to get help from staff. And yelling at a guest teacher because they wouldn't let me go to the bathroom, so I announced to the class that I was bleeding from my vagina. One of my classmates wanted to go to the bathroom but she ran out of passes. We have these things that limit how many times you can leave the classroom per semester. Around like 10 times I think. The office calling for you and stuff like that doesn't count. So she just told the teacher she was bleeding through and was so f***ing proud of herself when she came back. It took me a minute to realize what she was talking about. Reading a book. Apparently the head of history found me sitting on a bench reading across from her office window, intimidating. Ooh. This reminds me that I got in trouble for holding a book. It was a book for adults, so that's probably why I got in trouble. But still, I was upset. I finally started to like books and they said not today. The book wasn't even inappropriate. Washing my hands wrong. My kindergarten teacher didn't like that I flicked excess water off my hands before reaching for the soap. She kept me there for a while until she finally gave up on me. Psycho. My pre-K teacher yelled at me for yawning after waking up from nap hour. She said sleep isn't supposed to make you yawn. Not putting my jacket and backpack in my locker. All of my classes were on the first floor and one end of the building. My assigned locker was on the second floor and in the furthest corner from my classes. The administrators refused to move my locker. So pretty much every day this one teacher would write me up and I got a couple in school suspension for it. Finally, after a few meetings, I got the principal involved and she essentially told the teacher to leave me alone. Saying hi to the vice principal. One guy at my school was expelled on his last day as a senior when he said hi to one of the vice principals. Well, he didn't really say hi. He dropped his pants and told her to suck it. Yes. He was drunk. In 3rd grade I got 10% taken off one of my tests for spelling my name wrong. When I went to go tell the teacher I knew how to spell my name, she sent me to the principal for smarting off. Yo, I know how to spell my own name. My name's Mikey. First day of senior year English. My teacher called me Mickey reading the seating chart. After correcting her, she said she'd have to spell it phonetically correct in order to remember. She then spelled it Mickey. Now 11 years later I still fking hate being called Mickey. Thanks MRS. Bishop. In 2nd grade I got in trouble for literally breathing. I was yelled at in front of my class by another teacher who was visiting my class. Saw that I breathed in heavily because she held our class up. So she berated and yelled how disrespectful I was. She made me cry and told me to sit in another class and to write an apology. I wrote sorry for breathing. She was the scientist of all CNTS. I doodled on my jeans in 10th grade and the assistant principal literally pulled me out of class and called my aunt to come get me. When she got there, he just started going off and pointing to me with "Look at what she did." My aunt just rolled her eyes and said she's 15. I don't know what you expected. My aunt just rolled her eyes and said she's 15. I don't know what you expected. I got detention for holding hands with my boyfriend in the hallway. I was 13, man. I also got sent to the principal's office because in 11th grade for reading too fast. It was that BTCH of a substitute teacher. Pam. Everyone hated Pam. She had a gross, wet, moist cough. All the time. She sent kids to the office for literally anything. FCKU. Pam. Everyone hated. Yawning too much. One of our science teachers once gave someone a detention for farting. I never heard about this until a fundraiser the school had where we all got to donate £1 and then throw a wet sponge at a teacher of our choice. And one kid in the year below me threw the sponge and yelled, "This is for giving me a detention for farting." Double quote. I wish I had the context for this. But at least he got his revenge. Not in trouble, but I got called down to the dean's office cause a girl was really into me and I wasn't about it, so he called me down to tell me not to make it weird for her. When I was in 9th or 10th grade, I threatened to light a kid on fire when he tried to touch my tit. Then, we both got in trouble. I wasn't particularly outgoing or popular. But every girl in the school, 6-12 magnet, had a rally thing where they got together in the forum. Basically a huge room in the middle of the school beneath the stairs and stuff, during lunch, and started telling stories of being harassed and assaulted in school. And how the teachers reacted, or didn't most of the time. Parents showed up. It was a fiasco. Nothing changed though. I dropped out junior year. Algebra teacher yelled at me for asking for help. He told me, "Don't ask me. Ask your partner first." Then I turned around and asked my partner for help. He then yelled me at again, "Don't ask her. If you need help, ask me." Eating half a gummy worm. My teacher told me to stop eating. I ate the other half of the gummy worm I was eating. He held out his hands and told me to spit it out. I didn't. Obviously. Weird dude. I once got in trouble for scratching my ear in 2nd grade. She thought I was plugging my ear while she was talking. Even when I calmly explained to her that I wasn't. This reminds me of getting yelled at for talking on a cell phone during lunch break because it was cold and I had put my hands on my neck for warmth. One time I was talking about how I went hunting with my dad over the weekend and the school made me talk to a counselor about it. I had to talk to our school counselor a lot. A kid I didn't like got into a lot of little riffs with me. For some reason they latched onto my parents getting a divorce and me living with my dad for my bad behavior. That kid was just a DCK and my parents getting divorced was a great decision. I never knew why that was so hard to believe. Stupid lady with a giant fake shiny nose. Went to a new school for a few months in high school. Every student had to have an ID badge around their neck, visible at all times. If you got caught without your ID for whatever reason you get detention. However, you could get a temp ID from the office for the day. Forgot my ID at home one day but didn't notice till after first period. So not wanting to risk getting caught by a teacher, I went to the office before second period to get a temp. The secretary said it was very responsible to get a temp instead of trying to be sneaky about it for the day. Then in the very next second she wrote me out a detention slip for not having my badge all throughout first period and breaking the rules. Never understood that rule. Looking back, I honestly think it was just a skeezy trap to get students to turn themselves in for some dumb reason. Public school is asinine. I was noodling with my long hair in the back while the teacher was taking roll at the beginning of class. He gave a 20% grade deduction for the day if you were being disruptive. He gave it to me. Told him he was full of crap and got sent to the school office. The vice principal told me he could suspend me for saying the teacher was full of crap. I said, is it really worth the fuss? Would you suspend someone for the same thing or deduct their daily grade for just twiddling hair during roll call? I told him I would make a huge stink as it was completely ridiculous. Got a detention day. In middle school I was truant. Skipped a few times and often had bad grades. That's about it. Well, in high school I somehow was able to view my disciplinary record for that school, and apparently I had walked by a teacher's room and shot a laser in her eye and then proceeded to run from her and hide in the restroom. Which I had never even owned a laser pointer, let alone done that. So they put somebody else's record on mine or made up something about me, lol. Got suspended for not being straight. So yeah. In 8th grade I got yelled at and followed back to class by 4 teachers after using the boys' bathroom. I'm a trans man. I called my mom sobbing and a teacher had the audacity to come into the student lounge and tell me to get off my phone. I literally sat and cried in my dad's lap when he came to pick me up and talk to the principal. I didn't even get to take a goddamn piss. For rolling my eyes. Teacher shouted at me in front of the whole class. I didn't roll my eyes. I was drinking water. The next thing I remember was a flying book. The calculus asshole. Teacher at my school would simply chuck board markers over his shoulder into the students when they started to run dry. One time a guy caught the marker and chucked it back toward the teacher. It bounced off the board and hit him in the nuts. 1. Someone opened a package and tossed a few shreds of clear cellophane on the floor in front of their desk. I had also dropped some paper in front of my desk. The teacher pointed and told me to clean up that mess. I cleaned up my paper. She came back and sent me to the principal because the cellophane, that was not mine and that I didn't even see, was still there. First grade. 2. A friend took another kid's lunchbox, playing around, and handed it to me. I tossed it 2 feet across the table to its waiting owner. The teacher gave me a detention for throwing things. 12th grade. It wouldn't be so bad if it weren't for the fact that I did plenty of things deserving of punishment. It was Halloween and decided to give out candy to my other classmates. We've been friends from kindergarten to 11th grade since it's a charter school and I already know the gist of who's allergic to what. Decided to give some out for Halloween with permission from my homeroom teacher and then got detention after school from my math teacher because I didn't ask. Straight up crazy. I got caned for bullying a guy I'd never spoken to nor met. Turns out he burst out crying because his dad died. The teacher asked him why, and he said that guy over there has been bullying me about my dead dad all week. pointing me out across the yard. Me, oblivious, just going about my day. When I was getting the cane, the deputy head was shouting, "Never do it again." And I was shouting back, "I won't, sir." No idea at all why I was there. No idea why I have a problem with authority now. No clues. I only found out the story a couple of years later when he apologized. I'd been caned plenty of times since, so IDNGAF by then. 13 years old. I wore a tank top for gym class we had outside AMD. It was 90°F outside. The teacher is a kinda creepy middle-aged man. No one was distracted by my shoulders except him. I got in school suspension because I wore blue tights under a dress. They were not a school approved color. This was my senior year of high school. My school decided to enforce a dress code. Navy was one of our colors, but apparently my tights weren't navy enough. I was a straight A student who never got suspended till this. So I was the good nerdy kid in school. My sophomore year we had a new principal and she saw some video that showed a guy with 12 guns hidden on his body. The new principal made a rule that your t-shirt had to be shorter than your fingertips at your side. I'm a small guy, so all my shirts were non-compliant. So long story short, I was sent to in-school detention for the first time in my life. 4th grade. Winter. Cold as fuck. All I had were these thin gloves that did nothing towards keeping my hands warm. My hands were getting near frostbitten. I go inside during recess to warm up. Teacher sees me doing this and demands I go back outside. Despite my protests, I don't. I get sent to the principal's office. Joke's on you, bitch. I stayed warm. I've had anxiety and depression since I was a kid. So, obviously that means I have emotional issues. I really needed to talk to someone. So I'd talk to one of the guidance counselors a lot. One time when I needed him, I think he wasn't available. I checked back later, and the principal told me to stay in class. I went to check one more time if he was available. The principal happened to go by and he gave me 2 days of detention. I made a big deal and he cut it to just 1 day. My middle school was f***ing trash. Also, my high school accused me of terrorism. But that's another story. I had a quite strange art teacher. She was always trying to look the best in front of everyone, but also loved to degrade children for being less talented than herself. One day we were supposed to draw a beach and she told us to only color it stroke by stroke, with color pencils, and only in one direction. We also weren't allowed to rotate the paper, because real artists never do that. And I later learned that it was a total BS. At that moment I was like, if I color it equally strong nobody will see the strokes either way. And our teacher noticed my technique. So, I got suspended for coloring the way a 7-year-old child would. Had a marker put and kid bumped into me. He turned around to say sorry and the marker grazed his shirt, leaving a small mark. We both said "oh, sorry," and was kind of funny. Some kid told a teacher I chased the kid with the marker to intentionally draw on him. The teacher didn't believe in the original guy for some reason. I almost got caned by the principal. Instead 2 lunch detentions. That was the day I lost faith in adults and knew they can actually be wrong and make mistakes. I was unconsciously tapping my head with my finger. I wasn't annoying anyone, or so I thought, since there was no sound produced. Anyway, my teacher asked me why am I punching myself in the head. What? I looked confused for a few seconds. Being like, are you talking to me? She then proceeded yelling at me and stuff, saying how what I was doing was disrespectful. The other students were whispering about what the hell is wrong with her. Doing card tricks because the school has a rule against gambling. Having a folding chair with me. In a summer pay class. Socializing with a girls pay class. Sub got angry for us wanting to work on our big group assignment that was due that week. We always had the same sub and she would waste half our class time with riddles. I asked for a refund on the lunch that I had prepaid for because they ran out of food. I was forced to apologize to some volunteer lunch lady who replied, "No, you're not," when I said I'm sorry. I was an introvert in grade 7. I don't remember exactly what I said, but my teacher asked me something randomly and I answered something weird. So she asked, "Are you crazy?" And I said, "Somehow we all are a little crazy." Whole class was cracking into laughter and my teacher was like, "Sit down." Next. Never got into trouble, but it was a ballsy move by me for the first time in my life. A student teacher told me and 2 other students to put our desks in a circle. I said 3 desks make a triangle, not a circle. She kicked me out of the class for the day. I got off through the back of the school bus 2 weeks before graduation in HS. I was supposed to have lunch on campus every day, small private school with no cafeteria. I didn't have a way to pack a lunch really, so I said FCK it and left to go to Crystal's a block away. When I came back before lunch had even started, our class let out early. The principal was waiting for me. BTCH kicked me out on the spot and wouldn't let me graduate. A few years later I got my GED and joined the army.